We are on part 2, The Roots of Black Radicalism, chapter 6, The Historical Archaeology of the Black Radical Tradition, and the Haitian Revolution. The 18th century ended with the movement of slaves to match the drama of Brazil's Palmeiras and the significance of the maroon settlements in Jamaica and Suriname during the preceding century. In Haiti, between 1791 and 1804, slave armies managed to defeat the French, Spanish, and English militaries, the most sophisticated armies of the day. Haiti thus became the second New World colony to achieve political independence from its European master and the first slave society to achieve the permanent destruction of a slave system. Go black people, go black people, go Haiti, go Haiti, go Haiti, go Haiti, go. Modern Haiti constituted the western third of the island that 16th century Spaniards had known as Hispaniola. Its early history during the Spanish occupation has already been rehearsed here. This is like the first wave of slavery, and then it's going to talk about the second wave of slavery, but that's the next page. Having largely eliminated its native inhabitants and leached its sources of precious metals, the conquistadors quickly moved on. With the depopulation of Hispaniola and the complete domination of a Spanish New World economy by the mines and plantations of Nueva España and Colombia after the mid-16th century, the island retreated to the more remote pages of history. Only the eastern regions retained any substantial remnant of its colonial population, while as that's a name, in slight imitation of the poetic form lilts, the only inhabitants on the western part of the island were the roving herds of cattle and swine which had escaped the Spanish. In the 17th century, the western regions of what the French called Saint-Domingue acquired some settlements based on the activities of renegade seamen and pirates from Tortuga, attracted initially by the supply of meat in the region and then subsequently encouraged by the French colonial authorities, one of which, Bertrand, I don't know how to say this, lowercase d, apostrophe o, Geron, imported women from Paris in the 1660s. The Buccaneers, named for their diet of almost burnt meat, gradually transformed into planters, just as gradually their French settlements in western Hispaniola reintroduced a slave system. The census of 1681 recorded a slave population of 2,000, and that of 1681 one of 3,440. But after the Treaty of Ryswick in 1697, in which Spain officially recognized French Saint-Domingue, and Louis XIV restricted the Buccaneers' plunder to slaves, the black population increased more rapidly. By 1701, at 20,000, and in 1754, a similar document put the figure at 230,000. I skipped a part. By 1701, an official memoir destined for the ministers of Marine estimated the slave population at 20,000, and in 1754, a similar document put the figure then at 230,000. On the eve of the Revolution, the slave population was estimated to be between 450,000 and 509,000. The white population, 30,000, and the mulatto population, French colonies being what they are, as Norman Stone had observed, roughly equaling the whites. It was all quite understandable. By 1790, Haiti was perhaps the most productive colony the modern world had known. Its sugar, coffee, indigo, and tobacco production had said to be greater than the total for British North America. And what the British West Indies had done for the economies of Bristol, Manchester, and the like, Saint-Domingue did for Nantes, Bordeaux, Marseilles, Orleans, Dieppe, Barcy, Paris, and other dozen great towns. C.L.R. James commented, "It received in its ports 1,587 ships, a greater number than Marseilles, and France used for the Saint-Domingue trade alone 750 great vessels employing 24,000 sailors. In 1789, Britain's export trade would be 27 million pounds, that of France 17 million pounds, of which the trade of Saint Domingue would account for nearly 11 million pounds. The whole of Britain's economy, the whole of Britain's colonial trade in that year amounted to only 5 million pounds, and all of it rested on slavery. Negroes and the food for Negroes, that is the one rule for the colonies, a French economist of the late 18th century declared. Haiti's slave population, however, was not self reproducing, and even more severe, a negrophobe, as Lothrop Stoddard had to admit to the reason why. Sandwiched, excuse me, Sandwiched between his evocation of the official realizations for the persistent destruction of the black population, explanations that ranged from the truths of improper food, the exploitation of pregnant women, high infant morality, and venereal disease, to the absurdities of proposing the nervous strain on savages suddenly introduced to a continuous labor, and the supposition of an analogy on the impact of captivity on the reproductive capacities of wild animals. Stoddard was compelled to acknowledge the general opinion seems to have been that the Negroes were worked too hard, and that this was often deliberately done, as many masters considered it cheaper to buy slaves than to breed them. And when people say, oh, there's no such thing as breeding plantations, maybe not in Haiti, but in America, yeah. As a consequence, the colony was forced to import Africans at a rate which by the time of the Revolution had grown to at least 40,000 each year. In turn, Stoddard recognized one of the most important considerations for the history of the Revolution in Saint Domingue is the fact that the majority of the Negro population was African-born. In its second slave era, then, Haiti had ultimately recapitulated some of the phenomenology of its first. Its slave system, meaning that the same structures from the first slave, 16th, and then 7th. Okay. Yeah. Its slave system was cruel and genocidal. Its master class, made up of destitute aristocrats and others just as desperate to achieve the wealth and the titles of noble status, its laboring class increasingly African, and its whites differentiated between the few who succeeded and then absented themselves, and many of those whose only achievement was as minor functionaries. One other reoccurrence was maroonage. Stoddard, in a typical fashion, commented, "There is always a minority of untamable spirits who burst their bonds and sought an outlaw's freedom. In a mountainous country like San Domingo, this was easy, and soon every tract of forest and jungle came to have its wild denizens. As time went on, the numbers of the Maroons steadily increased. During the year 1720 alone, over 1,000 Negroes took to the woods, while in 1751, a high official estimated the refugees in the mountains in the Spanish border at over 3,000. Wild outlawry was the most respect that the scholars in the tradition, joined by Stoddard, could accord to the Maroons. Despite repeated efforts to destroy the communities, they persisted, however, devastating the countryside and inspiring fear in the Saint Domingue settlers at the end of the 18th century. Others, like the famed Les Manuel, made their peace with the colonial authorities only on the very eve of the revolution that would eventually make them redundant. Let me fix you. Yet their importance, the significance they bore for the ideologists of the colonial regime, went far beyond their objective achievement. Like the revolution, their existence foretold, they were demeaned and devalued by those who saw them in the contradiction to the myths of European superiority. And think about that in relation to like the what's going on with Haiti right now, and like the racism being enacted against Haitian immigrants in America. Girl, when you see those like roots of racism and all that stuff, starting with not even starting with the Haitian Revolution, but traces with the Haitian Revolution and how that's impacting today, that's crazy. The precise, that is, historical relationship of the Maroons to the Haitian Revolution is still a matter of debate, particularly so among Haitian historians. Some traditions hold that the Maroons played no role in the revolution at all. Others declare that the Maroons were the principal origin of the Rising of 1791, the revolution. If it were not Haiti, go Haiti, go Haiti. If it were not Haiti about which the controversy revolved, the debate might have very well been settled by the available evidence. After all, voodoo, and I have a book. Did I put it away? 1 second. Oh. Hold up. Voodoo. Let the truth be known. Voodoo is a science of the oppressed, a repository of woman knowledge. Jambalaya, the natural woman's book of personal charms and practical rituals. After all, voodoo, which James termed the medium of the conspiracy of 1791, had also inspired earlier Maroon revolts, the most important of which had occurred barely 30 years before. Under the guide of MacDaniel, two of the revolution's first leaders were Maroons, Bougoman, a fugitive slave from Jamaica, and Jean Francoise, who had spent the last few years prior to 1791 as a Maroon. And as well, when in late August, mulattoes of the West Province too rose up against the French, we know that they enlisted Maroons who they termed the Swiss, and whom they would eventually betray. The Maroons, it would seem, were an integral part of the disparate elements that crystallized into the Haitian Revolution, but they had been party to the genesis of a pariah nation, a black republic that, in the first years of the 19th century, threatened the slave societies that were its neighbors and confounded the heirs to the more recent racial ideology. Haiti's Maroons were part of an unacceptable entity. Their history and their historical character had become pawns, objects of contest between Haitian ideologues representing what David Nicolas would call the black and mulatto legends of the past, and related to the diminution of the revolution itself by European and American historians and scholars. And then there's like a quote. Divisions among the whites, the population structure, the international situation, these are all factors which must be taken into account when attempting to explain the course of events leading up to Haitian independence. Girl, to conclude from this that the black slave population played a merely passive role in the revolution would be seriously to misperceive the situation. Perhaps we may excuse the anthropologist Leyburn for a somewhat naive approach to the past when he suggests it was not the resentment of slaves against their masters which caused the final explosion. The slaves were tinder used by others to keep the conflagrations burning. Of course they were upset. Of course they were frustrated. Of course they were tired. And girl, I would be resentful too if I were them. Shit, I probably... Never mind. Less innocent, however, is T.O. Ott. In his explicitly historical work, The Haitian Revolution, the author clearly sees that there was no monolithic cause of the slave rebellion, yet he commits himself to the extraordinary view that whites and mulattoes handed them. He's a racist, by the way, or like operates within a racist ideology. That's why he's saying this. I just want to make that clear. The T.O. Ott, T.O. Ott is his name. Yet he commits himself to the extraordinary view that the whites and mulattoes handed them, the slaves, the colony by default. And think about that. Like, what do you mean they handed them? No, these black people fought. You know what I mean? And forced them into a course of action which they would have not otherwise have adopted. Really? Who told you that? They did. Less comfortable with the dialectic that James employed so effectively in his study of the revolution, and which we will explore in part 3. Nicolas concluded the movement succeeded because of its structural relationship to the global situation. But this is not to say that the slaves were merely passive. We should know, though, that Nicolas's tempered criticisms are of the milder and more recent expression of the academic tradition, some of whose elements appeared as early as October 1791. And among its contributors were those of whom James declared in 1938 constituted a venal race of scholars, profiteering panderers to national vanity. Think about that. The national ideology, like American national ideology, is often embedded with American exceptionalism, racism, xenophobia, all that stuff. It's going to be the same with these scholars who are vying for or pandering towards that national ideology, and that's why these people are like, oh, they were passive, or nah, nah, nah. And it's like, girl, no, they weren't. No, they weren't. You get it. Who have conspired to obscure the truth. You hear that? You hear that? The same with American ideology. Profiteering panders to national vanity, who have conspired to obscure the truth. And then let's think about that in relation to America with like the civil rights movement. They put MLK and Rosa Parks in these exceptional whatever. You know what I mean? Like you see those patterns in it, right? The truth of the Haitian Revolution, however, was not long in doubt in the slave societies in the other West Indies and the Americas of the late 18th and early 19th centuries. The enslaved people knew what the fuck was up. They was like, no, we know why they did it, and they are justified. Very much justified. Right. For 13 years, they were all, the masters fearfully and the slaves expectantly, witnessed the struggle between the slave armies and the forces of France, Britain, Spain, and then France again. They heard some version of the gigantic Bokoman, the Papa Loy, whose plan for a massive slave revolt had been constructed in the early months of 1791 and revealed to the authorities by the abortive uprising of the slaves in Limbe in early August. They understood how the racial arrogance of the colonials had deceived them into delay, deflecting their attention to the Petites Blancs, rebel of Les Cap François, whose greed masked as revolutionary ideals had to be behind any slave insurrection, which was uh, they understood how the racial arrogance of the colonials had deceived them into delay, deflecting their attention to the Petit Blancs, rebel of Le Cap François, whose greed masked as revolutionary ideals had to be behind any slave insurrection which was reported. They were fantasized by the details of the night lightning. They were fascinated by the details of the night of lightning, wind, and rain. 22nd August, when Bukuman called together the slaves of the Turpin, Flavio, Clement, Tremes, and now, no, NOE plantations of the northern plain, they began the mass destruction of the objects of their oppression. They heard how quickly the rebellion spread. Suddenly, it seemed 100,000 angry blacks in the northern province alone had swept the plains clean of its century-old vestiges of slavery. In the western province, mulatto forces had joined the revolution, and when it was propitious for them, betrayed it. Their treason to the insurgent was short-lived, and their promised reward was not forthcoming. See what happens when you rat on black people? You ain't gonna win. No. Anyways, they would rejoin the revolution and betray it again. See, and that's why we have to learn our lessons. Anyways, by late September, Bukuman was dead, and so were his comrades Gilles and Jean Baptiste. But the slaves were now transformed into black armies, marching into battle to African martial music, which, with unfurled banners, martial music, and with unfurled banners inscribed with "Death to all whites." Girl. From the movement From that moment on, the grand historical parade of the Haitian Revolution proceeded. The witnesses learned the names of Toussaint Louverture, the ex-slave who acquired slaves of his own before joining and then becoming the first overall commander of the Black Revolution. Dessalines, the slave whose military genius and hatred of the whites would knit the movement back together again when it was wounded by Napoleon's treacherous betrayal of Toussaint, and propel it towards new revolutionary heights. Henri Christophe, the slave whose old intimacy with Cap Français society would seduce him into becoming Emperor of Haiti, matching his station with the much grander presence of Napoleon. And perhaps if they were very attentive, they came to know other leaders like Moise, Moise, Jeannot, Jeannot, Jean Francois, and the French Republic's Sontonax, Sonthonanax, and heard, no doubt, with due anonymity, of the mysterious achievements of men like Hyacinth. I don't think I said that correctly. Hyacinth. The slaves of Haiti were in no way passive recipients. Haiti burned the ears of the slave owners in the New World at the beginning of the 19th century. They whispered its name, futilely conspiring to deny its legend and its very existence to their properties. But it was their ideologues, their intellects, their academics that succeeded in the larger suppression of the fact. Think about how we don't learn about the Haitian Revolution. And why? Why won't we? Why don't we? Excuse me. In terms of education and whatnot. Their weaponry was ridicule, while those of their bourgeois masters were economic and diplomatic strangulation, literally right now. They're trying to, what the U.S. is doing in Haiti and with Kenya as well, and what they're doing. And then think about, the ideologues, the intellect, the language being used around Haiti, and the racist rhetoric about it. Uh-oh. Let's keep going. And in this century, in due course, with the memory of the revolt, when the memory of the revolt had faded among most of the descendants of the master and slave classes of the old, think about that. Had think about how we are not, like, unless we are actively being taught or actively teaching other people about the, like, about slave revolts, about Black history, it's going to be forgotten. And why is it? And it's deliberate. And like, why do we? Let me just keep reading. But let me, yeah, okay. The still classic and unsurpassed study of the Revolution by James appeared. Thus, for a moment, it is appropriate that he should have the last word of that revolution. Of that revolution of slaves, James summed up his reconstruction of what happened in Haiti, and then there's like a quote. No one could have guessed the power that was born in them when Bukuman gave the signal for revolt on that stormy August night in 1791. Rebellion, war, peace, economic organization, international diplomacy, administration, they had shown their capacity. The national struggle against Bonaparte in Spain, the burning of Moscow and the Russians by the Russians that fills the histories of the period were anticipated and excelled by the blacks and mulattoes of the island of San Domingo. The records are there. For self-sacrifice and heroism, the men, women, and children who drove out the French stand second to no fighters for independence in any place or time. Go Haiti, go Haiti, go. Go Haiti, go Haiti, go. And the reason was simple. They had seen at last that without independence they could not maintain their liberty. But even before this Black rebellion was resolved, its impact was being felt elsewhere. From Haiti, the revolution extended to Louisiana in 1795, Virginia in 1800, and Louisiana again in 1811. Quite recently, Eugene Genovese had remarked, Gabriel Prosser in 1800 and Denmark Vesey in 1822 consciously looked for Haiti for the inspiration and support, and as late as 1840, slaves in South Carolina were interpreting news from Haiti as a harbinger of their own liberation. Go Haiti, go Haiti, go. Go Haiti, go Haiti, go. Okay, the slaveholders understood the potential of what they saw. References to the examples and inspiration of Haiti reverberated across Black America. The impact on David Walker, you should look up David Walker's Appeal. Very good. I can read those too. I have a lot of PDFs that I will be sharing soon. Soon. Let me think. Excuse me. The impact on David Walker may be readily seen from his great appeal. And the slaveholders were not amused by the celebrations of Haitian independence, such as that was staged in 1859 by free Negro Masons. And I have some questions about Freemasons, and I don't know who to ask. And Black people in this. Right. In St. Louis, Missouri, a slave state. The revolution of Saint Domingue propelled a revolution in Black consciousness throughout the New World. That's going to be in purple. From Haiti and the one great militia which Du Bois and Genovese claimed the white South constituted, the revolutionary tradition lit up the horizon of Brazil's Bahia region. From 1807 to 1835, the chroniclers of Bahia recorded revolt after revolt. In 1807, 1809, 1813, 1816, 1826, 1827, 1830, and the Great Husa Revolt in 1835. Again, it is the work of Nina Rodriguez, Arthur Ramos, and more recently R.K. Kent and Stuart Schwartz, not always in agreement, that formed the integument for both the recovery and the reconstruction of these events. Okay, bye y'all. Thanks for listening.